Well, the hills ain't high, but the valleys are deep. At the bottom of the bluff there flows a crystal creek. On the other side is the place where we reside, here at home with our Ozarks family. Every night in June, by the light of the rising moon, the old folks tell stories about what used to be. Then we play guitars out beneath the summer stars, here at home with our Ozarks family.
Hello, and welcome to the Ozarkian Folk Chronicles, your place for all things Ozarkian, the profane, the profound, the preposterous, and the impressive. And Hayden, I'm really excited because today is the first time ever we're going to have a video.
You're right, Curtis, and not only a video, but some real action to go with it. It's not just going to be you and me sitting around talking. We got stuff going on.
We sure do, and I'm really excited to have Tammy Morton back with us and Jeff Michel. Tammy's been on with us a few times with our highly popular true crime.
The Madam of Murder.
One of the duo.
Right.
And also Jeff Michel and all the wonderful stuff he's done with the youth of our community, teaching them old-time Ozarks music and instrumentation and keeping the Mountain Grove Schoolhouse weekly jam alive. So welcome back, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for being here. Appreciate it. We need to christen Jeff with a moniker.
We do.
What, can we think of anything right off? Jamming Jeff.
That's pretty good.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Well, it is the jam, right?
Yes.
Right.
Well, there you go. Okay.
And we got to give a shout out to our camera person, Miss Crystal Copeland. Thank you for joining us today with our, our video.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't do anything about my face, but at least we have video.
You know, I know we've always been told that we have the faces for radio.
Yeah.
But
But we'll give it a try.
that's right.
So, not only is it our first video podcast, but our topic today is awesome.
Great. In fact, it's a dual topic.
Yes.
Right? Kind of presentation.
We're going to be indoors and outdoors.
That's right.
And we're going to be traipsing around some cemeteries because both Jeff and Tammy know how to douse for graves. Or some folks call it witching for graves.
Witching for graves. I think we better call it dowsing.
Okay.
Don't you?
Yeah. So maybe we ought to just, let's kick it off with, Hayden, do you think we ought to kick it off with maybe Jeff telling us about what dowsing is? Or do you want to talk about your research? Because you study a little bit of the science behind it, right?
Well, but just a little bit. No, I think it would be, Curtis, that's a good point. So, and we also need to, we're going to talk about Alf Bolin later too.
Right.
So these two are going to go together.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Because we're going to be looking for Alf, right?
Or what's left of them.
That's right. Not a lot. But no, I think it would be better to have, personally, Jeff and Tammy talk about their experience.
Yes.
Because, I'm just reading the stuff online, and as you can imagine, so much of it's skeptical, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But when you have people that have actually had experience with it and kind of attest to what it does, why don't we let them carry the ball?
Okay, for sure, yeah. Yeah, Jeff, maybe just, let's start with you, because,
Okay.
I know you've had a long career around construction sites with Michel Electric and so forth. And a lot of times when folks think about dowsing for things that are underground, that's looking for something that's underground, they're looking for water, they might be looking for utility lines. We're talking about the same kind of process, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it'll pick up ground disturbance where there's been a ground disturbance. But when you're dowsing for graves, it will pick up a person that's been gone for 100 years, or if there was, it would pick up your body. And I don't know if it's the water in our bodies that it's picking up, or our bodies create a small magnetic field, nothing like the earth, but So I don't know if it's got something to do with that or just the water or, in our bodies.
Jeff, I've got a question for you. You know, the kind of caricature of a water dowser is like a forked stick that comes out.
Yeah.
But that's not exactly what y'all are using, is that right?
Now, we're using kind of bent rods, and they can be copper or steel. And if you're coming up on a grave, they'll kind of turn in and cross when you're center of it. You can walk by the end of a grave, and they'll both turn toward the direction of it.
Huh.
Now, how it does it, I don't know. It's not scientifically proven at all, but it does work. Recently, I went to an unmarked cemetery. A landowner wanted me to come out, and I went out there, and we marked about 12 locations where I said there was graves, and he put stakes in the ground, and then he did some probing around and found a headstone that was buried under about 4 inches of dirt that had fell over. So there's, it may not be scientifically proven, but I believe in it. Some things you read online, it says, your muscles, you're making it go. But I can go out to a location and you could blindfold me, and it's going to do the same thing as if I was just looking ahead.
Yeah.
It's going to cross in when you cross a grave, and a lot of times you can figure out the width and the length, if it's a child or an adult.
Now, Tammy, you actually, for our audience's sake, you actually have examples of the tools you all use, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oops.
So, they're just like, those are copper, right? Those are copper, and they have little handles as well, right? So that they swing freely, I guess.
And they're crossing right now because we're over a water source.
That'd be you.
Well, actually, the water line runs from straight out there, straight over
Oh,
here.
right.
So that's what it's picking up right here is the water.
Have you used those?
Oh, yeah.
So does the copper, does it help? Does that make it better or
I don't think it
more
makes
effective?
I don't think it makes any difference what the material is,
Okay.
copper, steel, but it will pick up the graves and it will pick up water. I've doused for water lines several times when we've been doing some sort of construction to know exactly where the line's at.
Yeah.
And would you say that your success rate is 100%, 90%? Is there any way that you can kind of gauge that?
I don't know that it's ever not been correct.
Wow,
Neat.
that's neat, yeah.
At least on some level, but yeah, it's, and like Jeff said, it doesn't, matter if you're blindfolded or what, you get the same results every time.
Wow.
Hayden, you talk about the equipment used, and you mentioned witching or dowsing for water. A lot of the old timers would get like you mentioned that forked stick. They get like a young willow tree, and the idea was that willows are almost always close to water, growing next to a creek or something. So the idea is that they would actually bend down searching for, or the willow branch would bend down trying to get to that water. So, who knows? A lot of superstition behind it, but there's something going on, obviously.
It does seem like something, and you're right, when you talk about the willow like that seems more like sort of magic than what Tammy and Jeff are talking about. So what's going to be fascinating is when we go out to see this in action. I think that's what's going to be so, I know to me, but I think very interesting for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's let you guys, we'll start with Jeff again. Do you have an example of maybe an interesting experience? Well, you gave the one just recently about finding that headstone at that landowner's property. Yeah. Anything else? Any other significant experiences that you can remember while dowsing for graves?
Well, I used to go with the White River Historical Society with Vonda Wilson Sheets, and we would go out, and others, and we'd transcribe cemeteries, and then they upload them on Find a Grave. And sometimes there would be places we go to. We went to a location where there was a old cabin built in 1830s. There's a cemetery next to it, and they were talking about there were a couple of slave kids that had drank the froth off some moonshine, and they passed away. And they were buried on the outside of the fence.
Yes.
I remember
And
that
we
story.
did dows for them, and we found 2 graves about the size of kids outside that fence. So, I don't know, it's,
Yeah, I was actually out there that day. I
Were
got
you?
to go along, and
Yeah.
I believe Maryland France had put together that historic sites group, and we got to go out to that property. That was an amazing day to see that in action. So I actually witnessed Jeff in action doing this,
That's incredible.
and very sad story behind
Yeah.
Yes.
what happened to those 2 children. But it's neat that maybe they have. I don't know. Do you know if they put a remembrance stone or anything out
I
there?
don't think they have or anything, no. It's,
What about you, Tammy? You got an interesting story about your
How
down?
interesting it is, but when I was teaching high school history, I taught a genealogy and a local history class. And I would take my students out to different cemeteries and teach them how to douse, but also how, what information you could get off of tombstones. So I had a group out at Gobbler's Knob, and I was showing them how to tell if it was a male or a female. And one of my boys looked at me and he said, I have always been afraid of you, but now I am absolutely terrified of you. And we were at the Branson City Cemetery on another trip, and my assistant principal, Scott Winger, was with us, and when he saw what I was doing, he said, I'm not having any part of this. He went to the bus, refused to drive me any after that at all, would not go with me, and he's probably still trying to find the scientific explanation behind it because he was a science teacher, and he just shakes his head at me, and it's just like, I just can't do that.
But I think you make a good point there. But we're not talking about like an occult activity,
No.
right? I mean, this seems to me something different from that.
And I think that that's something that's very important for me, because when I go to the cemeteries, I've been with Jeff before when we were finding the Taylor brothers that were the first victims of the Ballknobbers, when we went on that property and we were finding those graves. Nothing about this with me has anything to do with spirits or ghosts. It is completely scientific documentation. A few years ago, I was contacted by a lady that is a descendant of one of the Everetts from the Ballknobber era. And his wife passed away when she was very young, and they buried her in an unmarked grave. And the family stories were she was buried in the Sparta Cemetery Abundance, where Dave and Billy Walker are at, and that there used to be a stone there, and the stone disappeared. So I met her there one day, and we doused for that grave where she thought it was, and there was indeed a female buried in the spot that she thought that her great-great-grandmother was buried.
So how can you tell a male from a female?
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to show you when we go to the cemetery.
Oh, wow, great. Oh, better to be shown than told, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, the question I had too, kind of going back to Jeff, was, that reminds me, Tammy was talking about the Ballknobber era, and one of the Ballknobber victims, actually a victim of the captain of the Ballknobbers, Nat Kinney, was Andrew Cogburn.
yeah.
I know for many years you've been one of the stewards or people that take care of the Van Zant Cemetery out there near the old Springfield Harrison Road in Kirbyville. And in recent years, Andrew Cogburn finally has a stone for his resting place. Now, did you have to work on the dowsing for that?
Yeah, I did. The story went that after he was killed, they kind of buried him just outside the fence of the cemetery, because they didn't put him exactly with his family there, because they didn't want somebody to come dig him up, or because there was Ballknobbers that did not like him.
Right.
And that's one reason he got killed, because he didn't like the Ballknobbers and they didn't like him. So we did douse around the whole perimeter multiple times, and there was just one grave on just the edge of the fence line that's there now, which at that time there probably wasn't a fence, but it's just on the edge of the cemetery on the north side. And so we went up on the Bald Knob Hill. I own part of one of the snap balds, and we picked a stone out and took it out to Bearden's, Darrell Bearden, and he transcribed his Andrew Cogburn's name on it.
Oh,
And we
nice.
set it there at the cemetery on that location. Now, is it 100%? No, but we're pretty sure because that's the only one we could find by dowsing on the perimeter of the cemetery.
Well, you know, that's a wonderful story. You know, I think that it's always great that we try to remember those that have gone before us. And we've, you know, interviewed Travis Holt from down around Omaha, Arkansas, who is really fine character. He's made it his mission to go out and research and mark unmarked graves, because he knows that there's families out there. You know, in this day and age, we have Ancestry.com and a lot of things available to us where we can learn more about our families and our roots. I think there's a lot more interest in it. But you know, what you guys bring to the table, both you and Tammy, is the ability to find these unmarked graves. And in the Ozarks, it's a rural region, traditionally poor rural folks, and there's so many places that are unmarked, and if many of them that just have an old fieldstone and we'll never know.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really great talent that y'all put into use.
Yeah, I agree with you, Curtis. I do have a question. So, you know, you talked about you're fairly sure that it's Andy Cogburn's grave, but, you know, you don't know 100%. But you had mentioned earlier there are ways to confirm a grave that don't require a shovel and a pick.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, there's ground penetrating radar that can pick up ground disturbance and things. And I've been the caretaker of cemeteries around the county, like where my family's buried, the Mountain Grove Cemetery, where there's been actually accidental digging into another
Sure.
grave when they're burying somebody else. And you know, a lot of times after 100 years, it's just a white chalky substance from decomposed bones and everything. That's all you can see. So, and then they just filled it back in and moved over a little bit. But that happens, you know. I try to be there when they're going to dig one. Just say, hey, this looks clear to me, but I can't be there every time.
So again, that's another good service that's provided, just to not disturb some remains that are at rest. If you can, you know, find out when somebody needs to have a grave dug.
Because a lot of cemeteries are unmarked graves, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had that recently, about a year or so ago when my aunt passed away. She's buried in Patterson now by Bradleyville, which is a family cemetery. And there's not a lot of room left there. So before they started digging, I went out and doused. And Leslie Wyman actually came with me, and we were able to find enough space in the cemetery for the burial. And there's a lot of unmarked graves in that cemetery as well, from the Civil War battle that took place right there.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think speaking of interesting, so not only are we going to get to see an example of this today, we'll go to, we'll find out which cemetery y'all have in mind for us, but we're going to go out to some known graves and give this a practice and get to see how this technique is done. But what I'm excited about is we're going to go try to find a rather famous unmarked grave today. And that rather famous unmarked grave belongs to the Headless body of Alf Bolin.
Alf Bolin.
Yeah.
The most notorious bushwhacker
In our region.
in our region.
Yeah.
Almost anywhere in the Ozarks. I mean, he was a murderous dude.
You know, his story is so complex and complicated that at some point we'll devote an entire podcast to old Alf and his notorious deeds. But I thought for our audience's sake and to kind of set up today's adventure, I talk a little bit about the Alf Bolin story, who he was, what he did, and what his demise was. And I want to thank Crystal again for helping me edit a lot of this material, or at least identify the important parts for today.
Because there's a lot out there, and a lot of versions of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to kind of give credit where credit is due, we pulled information from the Society of Ozark and Hillcrofters, which a number of members came together to put together informational document about Alf Bolan and his famous murder rocks that are on the Springfield-Harrison Road, because the Hillcrofters recently worked with the landowner to open up a roadside park so that people can visit the murder rocks and see this location. But the other person that provided a lot of information I went to was, of course, Doug Mahnkey, longtime attorney, school teacher back in the one-room schoolhouse days, and his mother, of course, was Mary Elizabeth Mahnkey, poet laureate of the Ozarks, and his grandfather was kind of the second in command or lieutenant of the Taney County Ball Numbers, Alonzo Prather. So excellent local historian. But so I'm going to talk just a little bit about some of Alf Bolan's notorious deeds. Now, this would have happened during the Civil War era, and he was not for either side. He kind of leaned towards the South and their fight, but he was a bushwhacker, and it was generally civilian victims that he went after, and that's the really sad thing. I'm actually going to start by reading an account from 1915, and a lot of this information is from a W.D. Titsworth, which was he was an old settler, and he actually had an encounter with Alf Bolan that he survived, and he came along to tell some additional stories about other victims. So we're this will give us an idea of just how ruthless that Alf was. So, the following account of some of the doings in this part of the country during the days of the Civil War, and particularly in regard to the killing of Alf Bolan, a notorious bushwhacker and outlaw, was written by W.D. Titsworth, an old settler in this part of the country, and who died at his home in the edge of Christian County just about a week after this article was written. So this article is from 1915. It's from the Taney County Republican. So some of the things that W.D. talked about, he says, he shot men and boys without discrimination, mostly from the brush. Bolan shot me in the year of 1861 while I was on scout duty under Captain Galloway. I was piloting a man to our lines who lived south of the White River, and I went to a house to get some food, as I knew that the people who lived there were loyal to the Union cause. But Bolan was hiding near, and when I approached the house, he gave me a shot from his trusty rifle. Naturally, I never felt good towards Bolan after that. And then he goes on to say, before this, he had killed a boy by the name of Willis, a widow's son. This boy was only 13 years old, and he was shot dead while standing on his mother's porch from behind a huge rock that is known today as Bolan's Rock. This boy had an older brother, and some people think that Bolan went there to kill the older brother. Finding him gone, took revenge on the younger boy. This family lived on Ozark, a small stream that empties in the White River at Branson. The Willis family lived about where the railroad station known as Garber is now located. So that particular Bolan Rock must have been another location over on Ozark Creek, not the one that we're talking about, Murder Rocks on Springfield-Harrison Road. Another sad story, an old name by the name of Bud, who lived near Walnut Shade, Taney County, Missouri, was taken prisoner by a band of bushwhackers and was taken north up Bear Creek until they met Bolan at a place where Spokane is now located. From there, Bolan took the old man down on Camp Creek, which heads up near Spokane, and there the old man was shot to death and left as carry-on for the vultures. A man by the name of Simon Draper and myself buried the remains of the old man. So, from little kids to old men, he was ruthless. So, yeah.
And what I was just going to say, the fact that he has not, Vance Randolph has a folk tale about him, if that's what you want to call, but he's certainly never entered folk history, say like a Jesse James.
Right.
Till at least there was the sense that he cared about somebody other than himself, right?
Right.
Kind of a Robin Hood figure, but Alf Bolin is just hated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Didn't Forsyth at one point try to have Alf Bolin days?
Yeah,
One time.
1982, and then kind
1982.
of went over like a lead balloon, didn't it?
Oh, still remember that people were very upset about that because they saw it as a celebration of Alf Bolan, and it never happened again because it was like, no, we do not want to celebrate this guy at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, one account says when somebody who actually ran into Alf Bolan during that era, at that time, Bolan claimed, well, I killed 19 people, but the body count is somewhere around 41 or more, who knows. So now, let's talk about how Alf Bolan met his demise. And again, this is somewhat abbreviated, because I think we really should take a deep dive on this someday. But, so a Southern soldier by the name of Foster was captured by Union men and held prisoner in Springfield, Missouri. Now, that particular name, it could be Richards, could be Foster. The wife could have been a Foster that married a Richards, but we'll dive into that later. But regardless, there was a Southern soldier that was captured by the Union men and held prisoner in Springfield, Missouri, which would be just north of Alf Bolan's, hunting grounds, if you will. He was in danger of execution, so the story goes, for some offense. Foster's wife was a Union sympathizer, even though her husband wore the gray. Mrs. Foster lived near the Arkansas-Missouri state line, about 3 miles south of the Alf Bolan rocks, the murder rocks we talked about earlier, near what is known as the Old Layton Mill. Alf Bolan and his band were camped near the home. The chief came to her home many times for meals. Union officers made a plan with her whereby she was to help them capture Bolan dead or alive. If she would help them in this way, they would release her husband from the charge against him and set him free. To this, the brave Mrs. Foster agreed, and the plan was laid. She realized one small mistake and her life would be taken. One small error, one little suspicious move, and the plan would fail. The Union officers, knowing the cunning of the man Bolan, realized what a task they had before him. They selected a man by the name of Thomas, a Union soldier who was a native of Missouri who had enlisted in the army in Iowa. He was selected because of his coolness and bravery. Detailed to this difficult work, he made his way southward from supposed Springfield, but actually I think they were stationed at Forsyth, I believe, at the time, disguised as a Union soldier who had been captured and either escaped or been discharged and was making his way homeward again. He made believe he was sick and very weak. Slowly he made his way through the Christian and Taney County, going unarmed, knowing that if Bolan caught him armed, that they would kill him. Finally, he reached his destination, the home of Mrs. Foster. Here he stayed for a few weeks, pretending to be sick and staying upstairs. One day, as chance came, Bolan camped near and came alone for his dinner. Thomas made a slight noise from his place in the attic. Bolan asked who it was. He made him come down and threatened to kill him. Mrs. Foster explained that he was a poor Southern soldier making his way back home. The table was placed near the fireplace. Bolan and Thomas sat to eat. Thomas sat next to the fireplace. There had been placed on this side of the fireplace a coulter, which is a long steel blade, homemade, used to fasten to a plow beam to cut the roots breaking new ground. Bolan saw this and became suspicious. Mr. Foster explained it was brought there by a fellow some time before to made into horseshoes, and that he had never come for it, so she used it as a fire poker. This seemed to satisfy Bolan to some extent. The meal was finished, and Bolan, growing less suspicious, leaned over to the fire to rake a live coal into his pipe. As he leaned over, Thomas, like a flash, seized the coulter and struck Bolan. He fell, apparently dead. And so then they take the body up to Forsyth first on the way to Ozark. And Ozark was where there's a reward out for Bolan, and that's where the reward could be collected. So the plan was to take Bolan to Ozark from the Kirbyville, Forsyth area and collect that reward. So that's where we go to part 3 of the little of the little bits and pieces we're going to talk about Alf Bolin, and that is what happened to Bolin's body. So Bolin's body was brought to Forsyth, and his head was cut off by an axe by Colbert Hayes. The gruesome task of delivering the head to Ozark in Christian County was necessary to prove the death of Bolin as to collect the reward. So, for some reason they said maybe he was just a big man and there's a lot to carry all the way up to Forsyth or to Ozark. For whatever reason, just outside of Forsyth, they chopped off his head. Doug Mahnkey gives an account of where this headless body might be. So I'll read that, and then I'll be done with my reading, and we all can visit some more. Sam Boswell, one of the pioneers of the Forsyth area, and this is from Doug Mahnkey. Sam Boswell, one of the Forsyth pioneers, and whose people at a trading post at the mouth of Swan Creek before the county was established, told me of this story. After he was an old man and almost lost his sight, he accompanied me to the spot where Alf Bolan's body was interred. He cannot locate the exact place. However, it is on the right-hand side of the old Swan Creek Road, near and east of Old Forsyth, about 1 mile. Mr. Boswell was about 12 years old at the time of Bolan's death and remembered all the details. So that's the clues that we have to go by.
Well, Curtis, that is a fascinating story, and as we had mentioned earlier, you know, we don't want to celebrate Alf Bolan, and in fact, the only celebration was when he was killed, and you know, I think we've all heard the story where Mrs. Cloud was called on to identify the head, right, because of the whole thing about collecting the reward for it, and so that she had tobacco and she spat on his head, she identified it, and then they take the head to Ozark where it's put on a pike and paraded around. I mean, it was a celebration when Alf was killed.
Yeah, I mean, it is a macabre tale, and I think all of us have heard various stories about what happened to the head. So Jeff, I know you mentioned something. Tammy, you mentioned something off air. So let's talk about that a little bit. I know it's kind of gruesome, but it is interesting. Now, one story that I heard is that it was displayed in a box on the courthouse square in Ozark. That's one of the tales that I've heard. How about you, Jeff?
I just heard that people threw rocks at it, and eventually it kind of disappeared, like maybe feral hogs carried it off or something. There's all different accounts of what happened to his head.
Yeah, how about you, Tammy?
Well, and some people say that the head was put on a spike and you know, just left out for everybody to see, and they, you know, kids would go by and throw things at it, and I don't think anybody really knows for sure what happened to the head. It just like disappeared, and it could have been the feral hogs, or it could be on display someplace in a museum. No one's saying.
Yeah. I mean, there's even rumors that it's in a jar of Jeff City.
I've heard that.
It's kind of like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? It just gets put somewhere.
Right.
Do we know anybody that could give us access to go in and look for it?
I don't want to look at Alf Bolan. I'm scared enough looking for his body.
Well, I mean, if we have some viewers out there, some listeners out there that have information, we're always looking for that. That's wonderful. But, he was obviously a very hated individual because, he's just like criminals of ancient times where they were quartered up and taken to the four corners of the empire, that type of thing. This guy, his head somewhere, his body somewhere, he's obviously notoriously hated.
And the one thing the Union and the Confederacy agreed on was that they needed to kill Alf Bolan, right? Yeah. I mean, there was a consensus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's bad news.
Bad news.
Well, so I guess that kind of concludes our indoor discussion, and we're going to go out into the field and see grave dowsing in action.
I am so excited about this. I have never seen this before.
Yeah.
My dad used to do water dowsing, so I've seen that. But boy, this is a whole nother level.
Right.
We're not going to see any ghosts or anything.
We hope not. We do not want to.
Or We might want to.
I kind of want to. I've never seen one, so.
If we do, I'm outrunning Tammy. I gotta get in front of her. I don't get knocked down.
Are you gonna trip me or what?
Well, I think this sounds exciting.
Yes, yes. Well, everybody hold tight, and we'll be back in a few moments, and we'll be out in the great outdoors of Taney County. So.
Great.
All right, well, welcome back. We are out here on location with the second part of our podcast today, and we are at Casey Cemetery down here in Taney County. And we got Hayden here, and Jeff, Michel, Tammy, Morton. And now, Tammy, tell us the significance of this cemetery. I mean, there's something that a lot of folks might know about, at least a family that's here, right?
Yes. This is my Casey family cemetery. The original homestead was located just right down the road. That homestead is now at Silver Dollar City, and that's where the homestead pickers play their music and take care of our family cabin. The people that built that cabin are my third great-grandparents, Levi and Polly Casey, and they're buried right over here. They died in Levi died in 1859.
And a lot of folks, or at least in Silver Dollar City, it's known as the McAfee cabin.
Yes.
Now, why is that?
Well, Levi and Polly's daughter, Amanda, married Andrew McAfee. And that's who I descend from. And the McAfees were Union during the Civil War. The Caseys were Confederate. So when the Union won the war, then the cabin and all the property was signed over to Amanda and Andrew, so the government didn't come in under Reconstruction and take all the land. So that's why it's known as the McAfee homestead. But the McAfees did live in it too.
Yeah.
And that's, Leonard lived there. If you go in the cabin, there's a picture of 3 children, and that's the McAfee children. There's Leonard, who Todd Parnell descends from. There's William, that my cousin Sherry, that still lives up by Bruner, descends from. And the only daughter, Artelia Cubine, is who I descend from.
Okay.
And she married the Ragsdales, and they lived right up the road, and there's another family cemetery right there.
Right. And also, I mean, what is more Ozarkian than being out here 4 or 5 days before opening day of rifle season and hearing them sighting their guns in right down the holler? So if you hear gunshots, we're not being run out of the cemetery. It's just folks sighting in on their deer rifles. So.
I guess if we do get shot, this would be a good place because they could just
Yeah,
bury
we're
us right
already
there.
here.
Yeah.
And Crystal can get it on film, and
Yeah.
it'll all be good.
We're a good audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're out here today. Why are we out here right now, Hayden?
Because we're going to watch and learn. Tammy and Jeff are going to show us how grave dowsing works, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that because I've never seen this before.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll see it up close and personal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Jeff, you want to start?
Sure.
Yeah, show us what you got there real quick in your hand. Yeah.
These are copper rods, and I don't know how it works, but it does work for me. And I can tell the width and the length of a grave. So I'll just go across it, and when I get up to it, I'm just shut my eyes here. They cross, and then when I go past, they'll uncross. And you can tell the length of a grave. They'll cross over, and then when you get to the end, they'll cross out. Sometimes it just depends, but if I'm walking along searching for something that's unmarked, and you're going forward, the rods will, if you get close enough to the end, the rods will turn toward it. See, they're turning toward it. And that's right on this side. So, I don't know, the Earth has a magnetic field, and our bodies have a slight magnetic field when we're alive because of our heartbeat and different things, but then after we pass away, that's gone. So I don't know if it's picking up the ground disturbance or something that's in our bones or whatever that's, we're tied to the Earth in so many ways. Like I was talking earlier, you know, even the trees. Look at our lungs and the roots of a tree, and how trees take in CO2 and produce oxygen, and we take in O2 oxygen and produce CO2. So there's so many different ways that we're tied to the earth. I don't know if that's it. There's no scientific explanation for it, but it seems to work. So I recently found, earlier in the podcast, we were talking about recently finding some graves at a unmarked cemetery, and then the landowner probed around after we found them and found a buried headstone about 4 inches under the dirt.
So I think this is what you see a lot out in the family cemeteries, the Ozarks. It's just a rock. So, you know, it's been probably hit by a lawnmowers over the years.
Yeah.
But just for an example's sake, because we know there's a grave here, but you went on this side of the stone, to the west side of the stone, just try it on the east side and see if there's anything. See, just as to test it.
So I'm going to just go over it. And then when I get to the end, it'll come back off. So there's nothing behind it directly, but I can go over this way. So I feel it's kind of pulling this direction. So there's graves over there. Now there's one right here. Now there is. There's a guy in the left there. And then when I get to the end, it opens up.
So Tammy, this has been fascinating, but I understand that you're actually able to tell a male and female body by using your dowsing rods. How does that work?
I have no earthly idea.
Can you show us?
I can show you, but I can't explain it to you. Okay, we know these graves here. So my wire goes to my left for men. So this is the grave of my third great grandfather, Levi Casey. Over here is his wife, my third great grandma, Holly Casey. And the wire always goes to my right for women.
And Tammy, why is that?
I have no earthly idea.
I thought you said...
Other than because women are always right. And this two here is their son, Isaac Casey. So, even though it's not marked, I know it's their son. And the other similar one is a female that was Polly's sister.
So Curtis, I understand you're going to make the ultimate sacrifice.
Yes.
That you're going to become a body in the cemetery so we can see this work. Is that right?
Yeah, I want to say, because Jeff, you were saying it can work on live people as well as dead people.
It does.
Okay, and you're still alive.
Yes, right
Cool.
now.
Yeah, so let's see how this goes.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and
I'm
leave
glad
it.
this is you, Curtis, and not me.
Yeah.
I washed my hair this morning.
So we check the area first before. Sorry. It went in. It's picking up, so I don't know if it's picking up the water. Curtis, you drink a lot of water this morning? Or something to do with our bodies and the earth, you know? I mean, the closer I get, the closer they come in.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I should have been facing east.
So Curtis, this was a fine demonstration from Jeff and Tammy on this.
Oh, yeah, fascinating.
Fascinating stuff, but it's about to really pick up now.
Right, so now we all know, have a really good example of how this works, or we don't really know how it works, but we see it working here. And now we'll go down and we're going to try to find the headless body of Alf Bolan. So we'll see you in just a moment. Okay? All right, so we're out here where legend and research puts us on the old Forsyth to Ozark Road, or the old Ozark Mail Trace Road, the route the soldiers would have taken Alf Bolan's body up to Ozark to be identified. And that was in February 1862, I believe. So about a mile north of the old town of Forsyth, they apparently lopped off Alf Bolan's head and buried his body on the right-hand side of the road. So what we see behind us is the old road bed there. And so with the help of our grave dowsing experts, Tammy and Jeff, we're gonna kind of hunt around and see if we can find something here. Isn't that right, Hayden?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's see what happens.
Do you have any hits up this way? They did. I have a feeling that's what it is. I'm just sit on this side.
You having any luck, Jeff?
No, I'm not picking up a thing here. Nothing. I don't know if we've ever had the whole thing. I don't know. The roads have changed, over 50 years.
Yep.
Michel, you got something?
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys! Okay. Let's check this out. This is right. It's right beside the right-hand side of the road. I don't know, but there's something.
Oh, my goodness. And we're just on the right side of the old roadbed. If you're heading north out of Forsyth.
So that's what, about 5 or 6 foot long, and okay, it's crossing. So about 2 foot wide.
Can you tell if it's male or female?
Well, let's check it out. It is a male. Huh.
Oh man, get Jeff over here.
Jeff, we need you.
We think we might have found something, Jeff. Yeah.
Don't know who it is or what it is, but there's something.
Whoa.
Got me down.
They crossed. Are they crossing? Yeah, they crossed a little bit there for me. Turning over to the right there like there's something over there.
Oh wow, it's turning.
So it's pulling you.
Yeah, they kind of pull. I can't explain it.
So you think it's a hit?
There's something there.
Something.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Something there.
we can't say that it is definitely Alf Bolan, but it fits Doug Mahnkey's story in the location, and there is a male buried there.
Wow.
And you said the road splits here?
Yes.
One goes to Ozark and the other goes, what, to Taney
Taney
City? Is that what you said?
In the old days, this old road here would have gone to Ozark, and we're not far from the junction that would have split to go to Taney City, or what's now Taneyville. And so, yeah, the location's right, and you got a hit.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah. This is
Location's
exciting.
right, there is a male buried here.
Very good.
Today's been very interesting. We've done our research, and we've done our research for years. We went to the location that we thought Alf Bolan's body could possibly be. We visited with the landowner, and he showed us where the old road was at. We did find a possible grave in the exact location that Doug Mahnkey mentioned in his book, and it is a male grave. We don't know who it is, but
Well,
we're hopeful.
I want to believe it is.
Yeah.
Sure, I want to believe it is too.
I want to believe, but I'm just afraid that it was, is it really? I want document. I want facts.
Right.
And that's just me. I need all those facts.
Well, one thing's for certain, I bet we got closer than most.
I think
Yes.
we did.
Yeah.
And like you said, Tammy, we had done our homework, and Curtis, you got the road mapped and all of that. So, yeah, because it split right there, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's good.
Well, one thing's for sure, it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
And Tammy, Jeff, thanks so
Yeah,
much.
thanks, guys.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
We like this kind of stuff.
And y'all out there in the audience, you can't see, but behind the camera, thank you, Crystal, for
Yes.
videoing our very first video podcast. And thank you all for bearing with us. We'll get all the stuff worked out one of these days, but for right now, I hope you enjoy it. And I guess that's it for this episode of the Ozarkian Folk Chronicles, your place for all things Ozarkian, the profane, the profound, the preposterous, and the impressive. And we'll see you next time.
Have a great day.
Well, the hills ain't high, but the valleys are deep. At the bottom of the bluff there flows a crystal creek. On the other side is the place where we reside, here at home with our Ozarks family. Every night in June, by the light of the rising moon, the old folks tell stories about what used to be. Then we play guitars out beneath the sun.